What's up, fellow Hoops fans? Welcome back to another episode of The Last Shot NBA show right here on Little Birdie TV. As always, brought to you by our great friends over there at topsport.com.au. Monday morning, Game 2 of the NBA Finals. You know we've got to talk about everything happening in the NBA world. And of course, we're going to start off with old mate Benyam Kidane from NBA Australia. BK, how you doing, my man?
My brother, how you living?
Listen, man, I had a good weekend up until yesterday, and then yesterday was one of the darkest days in the history of Greek sport, unfortunately.
You can still dine out on Euro 2004, brother.
Listen, we're definitely still going to dine out on Euro 2004, but I was watching that George Kambosos fight yesterday, and look, man, congrats to Haney. He fought a great fight, but my Greek heart was broken yesterday. What can we do? Listen, man, I'm used to it. Arsenal, Knicks, Kambosos, it's just a lifetime of heartbreak. All right, BK, we've got a lot of NBA stuff to talk about. Game 2 is today in about an hour or so. It's time. It's going to tip off, but we're going to start off with some breaking news from a little bit earlier this morning. The Utah Jazz and Quinn Snyder have parted ways, or should I say, Quinn Snyder has stepped down after 8 seasons in charge of the Utah Jazz. Apparently talks between the two were amicable. He's decided that it's time to move on, so he will be looking for an opportunity elsewhere. The Utah Jazz will now begin the search for a new head coach immediately. BK, what did you make of this? Because for me, and I think I've mentioned it on the show a couple of times throughout the season, you know, when we spoke about the Utah Jazz, when it comes to that franchise, when it comes to that roster even as well, I just think it's time for a refresh. I think they need some new voices in there. I thought Quinn Snyder did an absolutely fantastic job. He turned that, franchise into a perennial playoff contender. Just couldn't get them to that sort of next level for, a few reasons that were out of his control as well. Obviously injuries and things of that nature played a part. I thought he did a great job, but I also feel like it's time for a reset over there in Utah. And I think I've said this before. I think it could be time to trade either Donovan Mitchell and or Rudy Gobert as well. BK, what do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I mean, Quinn Snyder was fantastic with the Jazz. They made the playoffs in 6 straight seasons. That's the longest streak in the West. But there's, making the playoffs is one thing and making a difference in the playoffs is another thing. And that was where the Jazz really kind of fell over for all their promise. They just couldn't quite get over that hurdle of getting out of the second round and sometimes even the first round. So, they've been at this for a while with the same kind of core. And eventually after time, the voice sort of starts to lose its message and you're kind of just doing the same thing again and again. So I definitely get it from Quinn Snyder's perspective in that, maybe he feels he's kind of done all that he can do with this squad. But it's an interesting situation now for the Jazz because, they'll have to obviously go out and find a new head coach and make some big decisions about the roster because it does kind of feel like we're heading that way with either a trade of Mitchell or Gobert and trying to figure this out because when you look at the roster is good. Like they do have a lot of talented players, but I don't know if it's this combination that's going to get things done for the Jazz. So I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe try and take this opportunity to maybe do a little bit of a reset. But they do definitely have some strong pieces on there that they can still build around. But this is going to be one to watch because I don't think Quinn Snyder will last long on the open market. I think there's a lot of teams that will be looking at maybe acquiring his services, if not this season, the following season.
Yeah, look, at most he's going to be 1 year on the sidelines because Quinn Snyder is a very good coach. Obviously, that Lakers position now, he was initially, when the Lakers got rid of Frank Vogel. He was one of those names that was sort of thrown into the mix as a potential replacement for Vogel in LA. Obviously, they've got Darvin Ham now. BK, who's a team that you sort of, could see Quinn Snyder end up at?
Well, I mean, I think, is it the Charlotte Hornets, the only team with the vacancy at the moment?
Well, by all accounts, they are, but by all accounts, they're kind of leaning towards Kenny Atkinson from what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the talk coming out of Charlotte is, was between Mike D'Antoni and Kenny Atkinson. So, I mean, they're both great coaches. Kenny Atkinson in particular, with his play development background, obviously in Brooklyn, what he did with that team. So I think that does make sense for the Hornets. So it could just be a situation where Snyder maybe just takes a back seat for a season. And then maybe sees what's on the horizon. But he probably just needs a break, to be honest, man. This has been a grind with this Jazz team over the past 8 seasons. If you're the Utah Jazz, though, are you keeping Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert? Where are you kind of leaning on that front?
BK, I mean, like I said, you know my thoughts on this. I actually think get rid of them both. Honestly, because if Rudy Gobert on his own, if you trade Donovan Mitchell and you just keep Rudy Gobert, right? He's not the player that's going to take you to that next level by himself. And I don't think Donovan Mitchell is that on his own either. Get rid of them both. Their trade value is never going to be higher than probably what it is now. See what you can get back. Obviously, you could get back maybe some, star level guys. You'll definitely get back some draft picks. You get some young guys and build from scratch again, because that's what I think this Utah Jazz team needs. I think they need to start it all from scratch.
Yeah, look, I'm not mad at that. It's not like they were knocking on the door of the NBA Finals in any of the recent seasons, and maybe just need one tweak to kind of get them over the line. It's a tough one, because I know they like both of these guys in Utah. There's obviously the rumors of the Raptors kind of circling around Rudy Gobert, and potentially the Knicks and Donovan Mitchell, or even the 76ers as well. But two guys coming off all-star seasons as well. The trade value really is kind of right now, and I think they probably could get maybe not all-star talent in return, but kind of all-star caliber. Maybe guys in the Tobias Harris, OG Anunoby kind of range, and you can maybe try and piece together that way. But at the same time, if you are going to trade away your two guys, do you maybe just bottom out and go for the young route and try and rebuild? Because Mike Conley's getting up in age. Bogdanovic isn't necessarily that young. Like, it's an opportunity for either a very, very big reset, which starts with losing your head coach. So it's going to be a red hot summer in Utah, seeing what happens in this offseason.
BK, that's exactly right. Just start it all from scratch, man. That's what I feel like the Utah Jazz have to do. Now, a former Utah Jazz player and an Australian, Joey Ingles, actually had a pretty interesting, I guess, cryptic tweet a little bit earlier. So he just tweeted this out at 8:27 a.m. our time, so about 40 minutes ago, BK. What do you reckon this one means? Is he kind of looking at that as like, man, I was planning on heading back to Utah this summer? Or is he just looking at it like, man, what the hell are the Utah Jazz doing?
I think a little bit of both. Obviously, he's got a strong connection with the Jazz franchise and Quinn Snyder. And, that was kind of always the thinking with Joe obviously going to Portland, was that, with his upcoming free agency, he'd maybe try and scoot right back to Utah. What does this do to maybe change that? The Utah Jazz could be looking a whole lot different by the time free agency opens. So that's definitely one guy to keep an eye on for next season. The talk was maybe coming back to Utah, but I still think there's a lot of other teams out there that will be circling for Joe Ingles in free agency.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Joey probably won't be able to play before the All-Star game at the earliest, I believe. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one there. All right, BK, let's talk a little bit about the NBA Finals, because like we said, it's the morning of Game 2. And guess what? The Boston Celtics are 1-0 up on the Golden State Warriors. They absolutely took that Warriors team apart in that fourth quarter. They won 120-108 in Game 1. BK, when we look at this series now, like, I thought the Warriors were going to get both at home. I didn't expect the Celtics to come out and play that the way they did. Obviously, Steph was absolutely atomic in that first quarter. He hit the 6 of 8, I think it was, from three-point range in that first quarter. But then you looked at the scoreboard and you were like, hang on a second. Steph's gone nuclear, and, the Celtics are still hanging around here. And then before you know it, the Warriors, go out to, I think it was a 15-point lead at one point in that third quarter. And you're like, all right, I think fatigue's really setting in for the Celtics. Obviously, the Warriors were more rested heading into Game 1. But that fourth quarter, Jesus, the Boston, talk about atomic and nuclear. The Boston Celtics seemed like they didn't miss a shot. I feel like at one point I went to the bathroom, and by the time I came back, the Celtics were up 8 from a 15-point deficit. I was like, what is going on over here? What were your biggest takeaways, BK, from that Game 1?
Well, I think at that point, for the Celtics, they were down 15, down 12, heading into the fourth. They really just played like they had nothing to lose because, you're on the road after back-to-back game sevens, like you're down by 12. You should lose this game, right? And they just were getting up shots. Like the confidence and almost the recklessness of just letting it fly at the start of that fourth quarter. But man, they just didn't miss. Like Al Horford has the most threes he's ever had in a game, regular season or playoffs in his career. Jaylen Brown had like 10 points in what felt like 20 seconds to start that fourth quarter. And really, they just played with that freedom and confidence that, they were down and they never really got too down on themselves. And you have to give them a lot of credit, for making shots. But I think the biggest adjustments were defensively. You saw how high they were picking up Steph Curry. They were kind of getting him on the 3-point line for most of the game. They were picking him up near half court in that fourth quarter, really pressuring the ball. And then the Warriors, they ran out some interesting lineups. Having Iguodala and Wiggins out there, they didn't really have a lot of spacing out there for Steph to kind of do his thing, and it worked. He only had 4 points in that fourth quarter after seemingly killing them for the early part of the night. But yeah, if you're Boston, this is a dream scenario because this was the game that you were supposed to. It was almost a scheduled loss if you can have one in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was going to be a double-digit Warriors win. Like I said, I thought they were the more rested team, and it does come across as like a simplistic take or a simplistic notion, but I was like, nah, the Warriors are more rested. They've got that NBA Finals experience. They're going to come into game one and they're just going to blow them away. And then after that, we're going to get a series once the sort of, they've already felt each other out a little bit and the Celtics know what kind of adjustments they need to make. We're going to talk a little bit about Draymond Green and his comments in a minute, BK, but look, so far, it's only one game, right? And this is where I kind of lead into that Draymond thing is I don't want to overreact to one game because it is a long series, right? And you know that, I know that we've covered NBA basketball for a very long time. This is the best team that the Golden State Warriors have faced this playoffs, right? Like the teams that they've, faced have been either under strength or they're just kind of like not being that good so far. This is the best team that they've faced. They're going to have to make some serious adjustments for this game 2 today.
Yeah, and I mean, it's got to start defensively because the Celtics just had so many shots that were uncontested, wide open. I've got the stat here. 38 of their 41 three-point attempts that they took were open or wide open, and 15 of those attempts were open, meaning the nearest defender was 4 to 6 feet away, and then 23 were wide open, meaning they were at least 6 feet away. So they were just getting up shots with very, very little coverage. And in an NBA Finals situation with this much on the line, you can't afford to leave anyone open, leave alone a team like the Celtics. You'll have multiple guys that can get hot, get streaky from beyond the arc. So I think defensively, the Warriors, I mean, Jordan Poole wasn't great defensively. They just had a lot of guys out there that weren't closing out. The rotations kind of got a little sloppy as the game kind of wore on. And they were a little bit, I guess, just sucker punched by the Celtics because once a couple of those threes started to go in, the rim looked a whole lot bigger for Boston.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, all right, let's get straight into it now. Let's talk about this Draymond thing because it's all, these storylines are all sort of, related, right? So after that game 1 loss, obviously in that press conference, he was asked a question. He was looking at the stat sheet and he said, look, Al Horford made 7 threes or whatever he made. Derek White hits 5 and Marcus Smart hit 5 as well, I think, or something like that. He goes like, he kind of said like, he insinuated that's not going to happen again. We'll be fine, et cetera, et cetera. And, when I was watching that live, I was like, I agreed with him, right? Like, because there's not going to be many games this series where those 3 guys are going to hit 15 of the team's 21 3-point attempts, right? 24 hours or less than 24 hours after that, basically the morning after, Draymond jumps on his podcast and he basically doubled down on his comments, right? About, the Warriors being fine. And it's, look, he's a veteran. That's a veteran team. They know this is a long series. You're not going to overreact to one game. I said this on the Twitter spaces we did on Friday morning as well. I've spoken to many NBA players and they keep telling me the same thing. We never get too high. We never get too low. We're going to keep an even keel. So Draymond basically said, look, I don't make too much of the loss. Obviously, you're down 0-1 at home. I don't think it's time to press a panic button. At the end of the day, it is the first to 4, not the first to 1, 2, or 3. All right, and I agree with that, BK. What's your take on Draymond Green's, I guess, theory?
Hey, look, I'm with him. That's exactly what it is, and that was kind of the talk coming out of Golden State, was that they, played well for 42 minutes to win the game. But I think it was Steph Curry said that's not how basketball works. You have to play the full 48. And for them, they played well through those first sort of 42 minutes of the game, but they just didn't kind of adjust down the stretch. And look, the Celtics, to their credit, they just hit shots. And if you're Draymond Green, you're looking at guys like Derek White and Al Horford, making it rain like prime Ray Allen. That's probably not going to happen again. Yeah. And they will take comfort in that they did play well for the majority of the game. And the Celtics basically just outscored them by a ton. It was 24 in that fourth quarter. So I think for the Warriors, I mean, they'll be confident coming into game 2 on their home floor. If they can level the series, now all of a sudden we're back to square one, and the narrative will completely change again in the other direction. And that's how things go game by game in the playoffs, and especially in the NBA Finals. Momentum is a hell of a drug, and it only takes one game to completely change things.
That's exactly right. Everything changes, game to game. Let's play devil's advocate though, right? If the Warriors lose today and they go down 0-2, that series is done, right? If they lose today, and I'm going to mention this when we bring Parky on later on, because we're going to take a look at the game odds and all that. If they go down 0-2, I think they get swept.
Yeah, let it fly. Yeah. I disagree, because the Celtics have shown us who they are at several different times during this postseason, against Miami, against Milwaukee. Yeah. Just when they look like things are going well, all of a sudden they will give up a 20-0 run and get bounced by 25. Like they have that ability to kind of switch off. And we've seen that too many times against worse teams than the Golden State Warriors. So if you can do that against the Heat and the Bucks, there's no reason why the Golden State Warriors can't punk you the exact same way. So, I mean, I've been doubting the Celtics all season, probably to my detriment, but there is still that element with the Celtics from they can look like the best team in basketball, and then for 5-10 minutes they can just completely implode. So even if the Warriors go down 0-2, I can't see a sweep for the Celtics.
Listen, I don't know if that's me, sort of part of me just hoping, I don't know, man. Today's the day for wild takes, right? We were meant to do it on Friday. I'm going for the wild takes today, man. The spiciness is coming out today. If they lose today, they're getting swept. That's my prediction.
All right, I'll hold you to that.
All right, done. All right, BK, we're going to let you go, my man. Thank you very much for joining us. As always, you're going to be back on later in the week to... Well, I think by Friday, Game 3 will have been played by the time we speak to you next. So we'll see if I'm on track for that getting swept prediction.
The Celtics will have the confetti ready to go by Game 3.
If they win today, they will. I guarantee you. All right, BK, we'll catch you on Friday morning, mate.
Thank you, brother.
All right, it's time to bring on our resident betting expert, old mate Andrew Parkinson. Parky, how are you, my man?
I'm very well, thanks, Nick. I'm still a little bit smarting from that game 1 with our picks that we had. We had the Warriors -3.5 and the under. And at 3/4 time, the Warriors bet was looking okay. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, well, we're going to, I think I texted you just saying, well, we're not going to get the under, but at least we're going to split the picks. And then something happened that may never happen again. The team came out and hit 7 straight threes to start the fourth quarter, and went 9 for 12 in that quarter. You and BK have already gone over and discussed that, but what an amazing turnaround that last quarter was. And as BK said, the defense was great too. The Celtics held the Warriors to 16 points in that quarter. So they held themselves to 40 points of their own, and I think that was the highest differential in any fourth quarter in the finals game. So I'd say that's not happening again.
No, I don't think. I agree with Draymond. It's definitely not happening again. Another thing I don't think is going to happen again this series is Jason Tatum going 3 of 17 as well. So, if we have to look at it and say, well, those guys are not going to shoot that well, I think we're going to look at it and say Jason Tatum's not going to shoot that poorly again. But he did find other ways to contribute. All right, Parky, let's take a look at the odds for today's game, because as we see here, the Golden State Warriors still favourites for today's game. They're $1.50, Celtics $2.68. The line's at -4.5. Total is at 213.5, and I believe it was 214 for that game 1. So it's kind of on track with that one there as well. Live on ESPN. Parky, what are you seeing from today's game?
Yeah, well, they're pretty similar. Similar betting to game 1. That under has been smashed. That was 215.5 at one stage after game one, and that's come down 2 foot, now 213.5. So that the under's getting smashed, and also Golden State as well. I think they were -4. Now it's -4.5. They've come into about $1.48, $1.50, something like that. There we go, $1.57. There we go. So it's they're the championship odds. Sorry, but it was really it's. I'm going to stick. I'm going to stick with the Warriors. The same pick I had in game one. That 4.5. When I first looked at this, it was 4, and I thought, the Warriors can cover that. Look, 4.5 shouldn't scare us. So I'm still thinking that the Warriors are going to bounce back. They've bounced back. They're 4-0 in bounce back games in this playoff series. So they're a good bounce back team, as the Celtics are. I'm thinking I'm going to go with the Warriors again. I'm going to give them another try.
Parky, I'm with you. Look, all jokes aside, I was talking about, look, I'm standing by that. I think if the Celtics win today, they do sweep the series, but I don't think that they win today. I think the Golden State Warriors are going to win. I'm not taking the under again today. I took the under on Friday morning. I'm definitely not taking the under again today. What about you, Parky?
Yeah, well, I feel a bit guilty because I've already locked in my under 215.5.
Okay.
And now it's gone to 213.5. So I don't know whether I want to make that an official pick, but it's only 2 points. So I'll stick with it. I think it's these two teams are the best two defensive teams as far as efficiency goes in the league. And game one, they combined for 40 out of 86 three-pointers, which is about 47%. So that's just ridiculous. I don't see the teams. I don't see the Celtics hitting 21 threes from 41 again. So no. I'm liking the under, although that's it keeps going down. I think a lot of people are thinking the under in this one. So, hey, I might be doing the wrong thing here, but I'm basically going to give the same picks that we gave for game one and hope that we can get those two back.
What are some of the other betting trends that you're seeing come up, Parky?
Well, it's been interesting. We made our wild predictions on Friday's show, and my wild prediction was Celtics in 5. Yeah. And now, as we see, the odds come up there. The Celtics in 5, which is 4-1, is $5.50 now. And as you were saying earlier, if the Celtics manage to win this game too, you're predicting a sweep, which is $7. So that's a decent price there. I'm with BK though. I've got a feeling even if the Celtics win today, I think the Warriors are good for a win in the series. They can maybe steal one in Boston, but it's looking. There's some juicy odds there that have changed just after one game.
All right, Parky, let's take a quick look at these NBA Finals MVP odds because there's some pretty interesting ones with this one over here. If we take a look at the top 5, like you mentioned before, there's only one Golden State Warrior in that top 5. Jason Tatum is the favorite at $2.30. Curry is the only Warrior in that top 5 there, $2.50. Jaylen Brown, $6.50. Marcus Smart, $15. Horford, $16. And then you got Wiggins and Draymond Green both at 41, but they're at 41 for a reason. Parky, like we said, Jason Tatum had a pretty poor shooting performance in that game one, but he found other ways to contribute. And he actually, if you look at it overall, he had a really good game.
No, he did. He, what did he have? 12, 13, and 5. And out of his 13 assists, 9 of those were stand-up open threes that the Celtics obviously hit. So he actually combined. He either scored or assisted in 47 points for the game. He was. He definitely wasn't the best Celtics player on the floor, but he did well. And look, the way it goes generally is, I think, if the Celtics win, Tatum's going to get the MVP. Yeah. If the Warriors win, Steph's going to get it. Steph was $2 going into game one. He's now drifted out to $2.50. So if you're a Steph Curry fan, a Warriors fan, you think they're going to win. That's a bit juicier than the $2 you could have got at game one. But Tatum's come in to be the favorite. He scores 12 points in game one and ends up he's the favorite to win the MVP. But I think we all know he's going to he's going to bounce back. He always bounces back in the playoffs or in the regular season after a poor shooting night. But he didn't have a poor night. He played 42 minutes. Coach Udaka saw that he was getting other guys open. He was drawing a hell of a lot of attention. So so that's an interesting one. The way the MVP's sort of panning out. It's basically going to be out of Tatum and Curry. But how great would it be if Al Horford at $16, the sentimental MVP, playing in his first NBA Finals after 141 playoff appearances in 15 years. He's just turned 36. So yeah, wouldn't it be great if we saw Al have a couple of good games? Because if he continues the way he's going as far as shooting, and if Celtics go with that small lineup, then who knows? But I think it's out of Tatum and Curry.
Yeah, I agree with you. But yeah, what a story it would be if Al Horford could win a couple more games like he had in game one, and it just might happen. All right, Parky, we're going to let you go because we've both, I've got to head off home to watch game two, and you're already at home. It should be a good one. And like I said, I'm pretty sure we're going to be texting each other through the game yet again.
Yes, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I think there's plenty of things to look out for in this game. As we've said plenty of times, that's not going to happen again. It's like the Draymond Green. That's not going to happen again. But the other thing is, I don't think Steph's going to get 6 threes in a quarter again, as open as he was in that quarter. The Celtics made an adjustment. So, yeah, lots of adjustments to look for in game 2 today. But, it's a bit of a must-win for those Warriors.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, Puggy, if they lose today, that series is done and dusted. All right, we're going to catch you again on Wednesday morning, Puggy. Enjoy the game today.
Look forward to it. See you then, Nick.
All right, guys, this has been another episode of the Last Shot NBA show here on Little Birdie TV, brought to you by our great mates over there at topsport.com.au. We'll see you guys Wednesday morning.